Are you ready to branch out, to take a leap of faith, to love yourself and others fully? Then let go of whatever no longer serves you to take action now on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Erica will energize and excite you to power up your passionate dream that sets your soul on fire. With Erica's E3 approach, equipping, empowering, and enlightening yourself so you can be yourself for yourself. Get ready and get rooted to live a life without regrets, without what ifs, without should haves, and especially without empty feelings from a life unexplored. This hit show helps you build powerful and intentional roots to live it up, love it up, and let it go. Get fearlessly ready and powerfully rooted in your yes with your host, Erica Gifford Mills, and be fearless about your more and stand in your yes. Now on Get Rooted Radio.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. A big shout out, as always, to my producer today, Nat. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Erica. Excited for another show. It should be a good one.
Yes. So are you familiar with Ted Lasso?
Of course. I don't know how anyone could not be in this day and age.
Well, then you are in for a real treat, because today's episode is titled Lead It Like Lasso, Lessons in Character-Driven Leadership. And I am so excited to have the Lead It Like Lasso team, Nick Coniglio and Marnie Stockman, on the show today. They are going to share the origin story behind Lead It Like Lasso and the leadership principle it celebrates. Really, and when I say this, I truly mean it, with warmth, wit, and wisdom, because they will unpack how the fictional world of Ted Lasso can create real-world impact for anyone striving to be a better leader in work, relationships, and life. But a little bit about Nick and Marnie. They are co-creators of Lead It Like Lasso, a book and leadership framework inspired by the heart-centered characters of Ted Lasso. And after building and selling a successful ed tech company, they channeled their value-driven approach into helping people become the best versions of themselves. Through keynotes, workshops, and masterclasses, they coach emerging and established leaders to step into their roles with character, courage, and a healthy dose of humor. So thank you so much, both of you, for coming on the show today. It's an honor to have you.
Thanks for having us.
So excited to be here, Erica. Yeah.
So we met back in, what was it, February earlier this year, and I knew I had to have you guys on the show. And I want to just jump right in. So during this first segment, we're going to talk about the character revolution behind Lead It Like Lasso and why character is the competitive advantage. But first, let us start with your journey. Tell us about it.
Well, I'll start. Because I started it as a high school math teacher. So that's not the traditional path to co-author of a leadership book, for sure. So started out as a high school math teacher and ended up in administration and then with an ed tech company where I worked with this amazing leader whose name is Nick and is on this call. And while we worked for that company, it got acquired 3 times until it no longer felt good. And Nick said we should go start a company to see if we can start a company so that our employees never feel the way we feel right now. And I'll let Nick pick up the story from there.
Yeah, so we did exactly that. And as luck would have it, we had a non-compete in the world of education technology. So we had to do something completely different. And we did that. We found a problem in managed IT services, which was something that we really knew nothing about in terms of outsourced IT services. But what we did know about was how we wanted to build a business. So we had somebody come to us with a problem. It was all about customer success and how to manage client expectations in the world of managed IT support. And we did know about customer success, and our number one core value was raving fans. So we built a software as a service platform, and we happened to build that in the same 3 years that Ted Lasso aired. So we built it, we scaled it to a 8-figure business, and we exited. And when we exited, we had a ton of people really inquire what was the foundation of our success. And what we did is we did some reflection, and we realized how we did anything, whether it was Marnie going back years and years as an educator, or myself in technology as a programmer of all things and consultant. We realized that the same principles and core beliefs that we had throughout that whole process was really the foundation for our success. So we happened to think about writing a book to communicate those ideas. And as luck would have it, as I mentioned, that show that aired that during that same time was Ted Lasso. And Marnie Stockman, for those that don't know, is like the real Ted Lasso. She is filled with optimism and filled with trying to help people become the best versions of themselves. And I really, what did I say, Marnie? I said, you have to watch this show.
Yeah. He said, like, well, not just once. It was maybe the third to fifth time when I finally said, okay, I get it. It's funny. I was re-listening to one of the episodes the other day, and Ted told a dad pun, like parenthetically while he's talking. I was like, this is why Nick says that I'm like Ted Lasso, because that's exactly the kind of dumb pun I would have made. So I get it.
But I love it because not only did you learn a lot from scaling and selling a company, but you learned about values, growth, and culture, which then you could, really go forward. And I think to me, that says so much, right? Because you started the company because you wanted to make sure that you and your staff, right, your employees, didn't feel that way, but then you even learned more as you scale it and sell it. And I think that can be so beneficial. So when it comes to that, why lead it like Lasso? So I guess that's what I want to know. Was it because Marnie truly reminded you of this, or was it because of the things that the show encapsulated that you had learned in unison?
I think that's a great question. And it was a little bit of, I think that was the spark that Marnie reminded us of Ted Lasso for sure. But as we watched the show and as we talked about the show, a lot of people think of Ted Lasso as just a comedy about soccer. But when you dig deep and you peel back the covers, it was really a show about personal development and values driven leadership, just like you said, Erica. And we would comment on that all the time about, hey, that looks familiar. The same approach that Ted used or Rebecca used or Sam used or what have you, there are so many different leaders in the show, really embodies personal leadership and really the foundation of what we view as successful. And not only that, there were elements of the show that we aspire to be. We have blind spots, and we acknowledge that we have blind spots. So we thought that was a great metaphor. If there's anything that people should take away from myself and Marnie, it's that we believe in the power of storytelling to convey a message. And the show Ted Lasso seemed like such a great way to communicate the message of leadership. New, different, not research-based, not pie in the sky. We're not Oprah Winfrey or Richard Branson or some leader that is not relatable. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where we went with choosing Ted Lasso as kind of the reference case to convey the message that we believe so strongly about.
Well, and humor does sell, right? And people, when you can laugh at yourself, when I was going through my cancer treatment, I laughed at myself so many times because I needed that. And I think even in leadership, because things can be chaotic, they can be stressful. We get it wrong, right? If anybody says as a leader they've never gotten it wrong,
no, they're wrong.
They're wrong. They're liars. No, but it is. We make mistakes. We get it wrong, and if we learn from that, and I think that's the biggest thing. Because I think I've heard you guys say that leadership isn't just a title.
Oh, absolutely. And As a matter of fact, we say leadership is life. That's our number one rule in the book. We'll talk about rules in a bit, but we say that leadership happens in a boardroom, a locker room, a classroom, and a living room, and that it is really about personal leadership and the way you decide to lead yourself rather than being, it's not a title, it's something that you earn along the way with the relationships that you build. And really, frankly, it starts a lot with self-awareness in terms of how you lead yourself.
Yes, absolutely. I could not agree with that more. So before we go to break, why character is the competitive advantage? Tell us.
So we love to quote other leadership books. We give a lot of suggestions in our book, but Adam Grant, the psychology researcher and professor at Wharton, talks about in Hidden Potential, the notion that in a world of digital transformation and automation, we are in the midst of a character revolution, and it is your character skills that will help you stand out. So it is your humanness that will help you differentiate yourself in a world of AI. So that is why we talk about it being a competitive advantage for you.
Absolutely. Build relationships so that you can build business, because that's a foundation of any business, right? Whatever you have. Well, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the Lasso Way, 5 foundational leadership rules. But before we go, tell folks how they can connect with you.
Oh, the easiest way is to find us at leaditlikelasso.com or anywhere on social media at Lead It Like Lasso is our handle.
Thank you so much. You're listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any portion of today's episode, you can catch it on getrootedradio.com. Don't forget to subscribe online to receive the latest news, events, specials, and words of encouragement. Go to getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, the Lead It Like Lasso team, Nick Coniglio and Marnie Stockman. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
You bet. Thank you.
We're happy to be here.
So during our first segment, listeners heard about your journey and the kind of character revolution and how and why character is the competitive advantage. So during this segment, I want to talk about the Lasso Way, the 5 foundational leadership rules. So I guess just tell us about them. What did Ted Lasso get right? And how did you turn that into your 5 core rules?
So we have so many rules, and Ted has so many rules, but we really tried to narrow it down for the sake of this episode to not make your listeners stay for 3 to 7 hours. But I would say our top rule is, as I mentioned earlier, leadership is life. And so one of the characters, Danny Rojas, was a huge footballer, and he would run out and say, "Football is life." And we really, as we started thinking about how leadership played out in the series, in our own lives, and in the research we had done, we really learned that leadership is not just a title. As a matter of fact, it's not a title at all, that leadership really is personal and that everybody is a leader. So we took that as our premise and the first thesis for how we were going to write the book, that everyone, no matter where they were, whether they were just leading themselves, their children, or a whole organization, that was the key rule to think about. That I'm going to highlight the other rules, and then Nick can you can pick the ones you want to talk about. Yeah, you go ahead. Which one were you going to pick?
Well, again, we have so many. I think what's important to note is in our book, we present an entire framework on leadership, and the rules are really meant to help the individual get unstuck. We are big believers in that everybody gets stuck in life, and you may have the best framework in the world, but our notion with rules is okay, you get stuck, you have a challenge presented in front of you. We have some basic rules that help us get unstuck, and specifically around Lead It Like Lasso, one of our rules is onward and forward. And for those fans familiar with the show, that is a very much quoted line in terms of, okay, you know what? we all have setbacks. We all get stuck at some point in time, and it's not something that puts you in a position where you should just admire the problem, or, as Marnie likes to say quite often, just perseverate over it. Just think on it. You have to figure out a way to move forward and learn from your setbacks, learn from your blockers, and learn from your challenges. And I think it was it Sam's dad who really talked about a notion when Sam was stuck, son, you have to move onward forward.
Yeah.
And Sam and Ted obviously used that line as well. But we've had many issues. We started a business, and this is not an uncommon story, and then a couple of months later, COVID hit, a pandemic hit. We didn't just admire the problem, we completely shifted our strategy, knowing that we had our core values and our basic principles and strategy in place. We had to change our tactics. We had to move onward. We had to move forward.
And I feel like it's a corollary of that, like Nick said, to help folks get unstuck, and that is to defeat the blank page. So a lot of times, as we said, we were not familiar with the space. Ted Lasso was not familiar with, he said there was an entire internet of things he didn't know about soccer, right? And there was an entire internet of things we didn't know about the space that we had headed into. And we had to write a lot of social media marketing and content around the space before ChatGPT was out. So nobody was making it up for us. And so defeating the blank page, just getting something out there so that helps clear writer's block if listeners are writers. But the other interesting piece was that is also how we developed our product. Is we put something out there and then we teamed up with our partners to help us make it better. And I think that's a really important part, is if you can build trust within a team, within your clients, et cetera, to help build with you, that defeating the blank page can really help get you somewhere. Nick, you look like you've got either a corollary to that or another.
Well, we know we have a cousin to defeating the blank page, but I'll add another rule. And we touched on this earlier, Erica. One of our tenets is to make business fun. And you talked about humor. Funny story, the company that we started, scaled, and sold was called Lifecycle Insights. I know that's a little bit of a tongue twister, but at some point, we actually went to market with a separate website called lifecycleinsights.sucks, which was a complete parody on the services that we offered. And we had 5-star customer reviews like, oh my gosh, Lifecycle Insights saved us so much time. I actually had time to, cut the lawn or something to that effect. But we came at it from such a different angle than every other player in the space and all of our different competitors, where we were having fun. And not only did the marketplace recognize that, but our employees actually recognized that, and we soon became the envy of so many people just in the space as newcomers, where these people are like, hey, this company really knows how to have fun, and that's a place that I would like to work, and that is core to what Marnie and I are. We have a newsletter today called Work in Progress, where it's a complete satirical view on career advice.
Yeah.
And we just love having fun, and we think that makes it better for everybody. We feel like everybody likes to have fun.
Well, and it is, right? Because yes, you're serious about your work and your output, but if you're not happy, and a lot of times that happiness comes from having fun, right? Doing things that bring you joy, that bring you fulfillment. It's going to show in your output. It's going to show in your employees' output. Your customers are going to be like, somebody's answering the phone saying, thank you for calling, right?
Yeah.
But if you can hear the joy in their voice, it's like, well, these people must really, they treat their employees great. They must treat their customers great. And it's a ripple effect that goes across.
In the world
So,
of positivity, I have to laugh. I would do a lot of demos, and anytime I got on a call with somebody, I'd ask where they heard of us. And one person said, well, nobody likes anybody on Reddit, but they seem to like you guys. So I had to come see what you were all about. That's fantastic. Like I feel like Ted Lasso might have gotten that same, like nobody likes anything, but for some reason they're talking about you. So we're going to come see what that's like.
well, I have to ask you about one of the core rules. One of it's get naked.
Yeah. That
All
was
right.
the other one I was going to bring up.
So, oh, tell me about that one. I mean, I know
Yeah.
it's not really get naked because
Yeah.
we're not at a
HR.
Coldplay concert. I mean, I'm sorry. Did I say that? So what do you mean by get naked?
Yeah, so there is a book by Patrick Lencioni called Getting Naked, and it is a consulting book on really how to consult with companies, which is the way we present customer success. It is all about being vulnerable and allowing yourself to really be transparent and honest in a conversation so that you can really build up the trust to have great communication so that you can help deliver what the client needs, right? So it's all about asking questions, feeling free to make silly suggestions, because sometimes that's like the defeating the blank page. Sometimes throwing bad ideas out there, let the good ideas flow behind it. So the notion of getting naked is to just be vulnerable in the communication piece.
Yeah, get comfy being uncomfy. Let that vulnerability come out. And you're like you said, is there are no bad ideas, because even if one is not the greatest, you can build off that. Because I mean, well, this is what I was thinking. Well, that wouldn't work, but maybe if we took a portion, right? And that's how you get the conversation started. Just throw something down. And I think that's so important. How about one more before we go to a break? One more rule that you want to spotlight.
Well, I will go ahead. You go.
Nope.
I bet it's the same one.
Okay, probably not. But I mean, since we're talking about, since the whole book is based on Ted Lasso, and what was one of the core messages in Ted Lasso,
it
curious. Was believe.
Believe. Okay. Yeah.
Believe. And our last rule, I believe, or our second to last rule in our book is manifest it. It's hard to accomplish something unless you can think about and project and really move any object to make things happen. And if there is one, and there's so many more than one, but I mean, what has guided us along to all of the success, besides a whole bunch of fortune, is Marnie's ability to manifest things. She just makes things happen. And I swear it helps with every part of the process is to imagine, and just imagine where you want to go, and then figure out a way to get there. And I challenge anybody to really put down the idea of believing that something can happen, and that doesn't make a huge difference in any organization or individual in terms of becoming the person that they want to be.
I love that. Well, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about leading yourself first and building your personal pitch. But before we go, tell folks how they can connect with you and get Lead It Like Lasso so they can read on all the other leadership rules.
Well, Roy Kent is one of our favorite Ted Lasso characters, and you can find him here, there, and every effing where, as they would say. So Amazon has us in Kindle format, in book format, and in Audible now. So that's the best place to grab the book.
Yep. And leaditlikelasso.com and at Lead It Like Lasso all over social.
Thank you so much. I'm Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Don't forget to visit getrootedradio.com to listen to a replay of this episode, sign up for helpful tips, and learn about upcoming events. That's getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guests, Lead It Like Lasso team, Nick Coniglio and Marnie Stockman. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Loving it.
So during the last segments, we talked about your journey, the why and how that character is the competitive edge and competitive advantage. And we talked about a few of the leadership rules in the Lasso way. And then during this segment, we really want to dive into how leading yourself first and building your personal pitch. And I think let's just start there. Why do we need to lead ourselves first? And I kind of feel like, if I don't want to steal the thunder, you kind of mentioned it during the last episode, is that self-awareness is key, right? Before we go out there, we can't lead others if we're not aware of what we're doing ourselves. So not to steal that, but tell us, what about leading yourself first?
Well, we're just stealing that from Harvard Business Review, who did, and the stat is self-awareness is the number one predictor of leadership success by Harvard Business Review. So it is not just our idea. Pretty well established institution would agree.
But we also, I think if you think about it, just common sense says it's really hard to lead others if you don't figure out how to lead yourself first. An instant recipe for stress and anxiety is leading in a way that is inauthentic. And again, tying it back to Ted Lasso, what was one of the greatest attributes that Ted and team had, because they were all sorts of different leaders, it was the authenticity. It was the authenticity is what drives trust. And when you are leading in such a way, and this was me when I first started, I was promoted into leadership in my, almost 30 years ago, in my early to mid 20s. And I didn't know how to lead. I was an accidental leader. I didn't want to lead, but I was so good functionally at what I was doing. I kept getting promoted and promoted and promoted. And I ended up leading in how I thought I was supposed to lead, what I saw on TV, what I heard about, back in the 1990s. And it wasn't me. And not only did that cause a huge amount of stress and anxiety because I was not acting in a way that was core to my values, but it really didn't establish trust with people because they could read me like a book. So what we find, and it's very uncomfortable to do, especially younger people, it's that self-reflection. It's awkward. You don't really want to put in the work to figure out who you are as a person, especially when you're younger, we find. But the reality of it's so critical and important because at the end of the day, it's going to help you lead yourself. And then once you start leading yourself, you can become authentic, and it's evident to those that are around you.
Yeah.
So,
and it's hard, right? Because we lie to ourselves.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, self-awareness, self-reflection is probably one of the hardest steps, which is why a lot of people, I'll just do that later, right? Like, yeah.
Well, and in doing it, if you do it, you will find your superhero powers along the way, right? So, Nick has now done the work, and I can tell you that he is a great listener and a great question asker. And as an introvert, which he will happily say, I'm not letting out any secrets. That is a superpower for him that has made him an amazing leader. When I came to the company where he worked, he was highly regarded. I remember one of the other folks that I really respected on the team said she would run through a wall for him, right? So that came about not from a command and control type of leadership, but he had grown into one of those folks that when he speaks, people listen type of thing. So I think that's really important. And we talk a lot about getting to know your own personal operating system. One of my favorite scenes in Ted Lasso was when Ted asks Keeley what Jamie's operating instructions were. I'm not going to give the answer to that. I'll give the PC answer, which is he likes positive reinforcement. But when you can learn your own operating instructions, you can then communicate it, which makes it a whole lot easier for folks to communicate smoothly. When we first started our company, the first employee that we had, I felt like we had communicated our expectations, and she reported to me. So it was absolutely my fault that clearly we had not, because 6 months later we had to let her go. And after that, we started creating our own personal operating systems documents about who we were And we shared them with new employees, and we had them create a personal operating system to share back that included a communication guide. And when we did that, we were definitely more on the same page once we figured out, like, yeah, don't text Marnie at 10 o'clock at night. That'll make her crazy. That's not how we work.
But it's boundary management 101, right? You can't assume everybody has the same boundaries as you, right? We are all different. We all were raised slightly differently. We've gone through different phases and stages and experiences in our lives. And so it's knowing that just because you have a boundary, somebody else doesn't have that same boundary. So unless you communicate them and are consistently keeping them and reinforcing them and telling somebody if they've crossed it, we can't complain, right? Because you can't just assume somebody knows. And so that I love that was done. So in your book, you do something like that as well, right? You have, like, what character are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a character assessment in our book where the reader will go through, or the listener, if they're on Audible, will go through a series of questions, and depending on the responses, we will classify them as either a Ted, a Rebecca, a Roy, a Sam, or a Keely. So we didn't choose all the characters. But what's important there, and I think what's really important for everybody to realize, and again, I didn't realize this when I was in my 20s, is that there's so many different types of ways to lead. Although Ted, we talk about Ted Lasso as a leader, Rebecca Welton in the show was a tremendous leader. She was a visionary transformer, not in the first season, but she got there. Keely Jones, we have a podcast where we review the leadership elements of every episode. And Keely Jones, we're amazed every time that she scores so extremely high in so many different ways of leadership. But the important thing is, whatever the assessment is, whether it's Lead It Like Lasso or some other person, there are googobs of, that's a technical term, right? Googobs of kind of these types of assessments out there. These assessments really help you understand and reinforce, number one, what your strengths are, but number two, where the opportunities for growth are. And we talk through both of those based on which leadership archetype, whether you're a Ted, a Roy, Rebecca, so on and so forth, in the book. And we provide some resources to help you both reinforce your strengths, but also shine the light on some areas that you can help from a growth perspective.
Well, and I think that's important, because when you identify that, you don't necessarily have to lead like someone else.
For
You
sure.
should lead like yourself, right? And I have something coming out in the future. One of the things is lead like a woman. And it's nothing against men at all. It's what I'm trying to express is you need to lead like yourself. You don't have to, if you're a woman, you don't have to lead like a man. You should lead from your authentic self, and whatever that is, right? And I think that's what's so important. People think like, well, this person was an incredible leader, so I need to be just like him or her. And that's not necessarily the case. Maybe there's things that you can learn, some tools you can learn, but if you're doing it and you're stepping away from your values, your beliefs, and what is really true to you, it's going to come across fake, and people aren't going to follow somebody who's fake.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't have to be in a leadership role. You don't have to have the title to be considered a leader. And I think that's what I like on some of the things that you do, is that maybe that person wasn't seen as the leader because they weren't the boss. And we can lead, and we can lead up, right? I would say manage up. Sometimes you have to manage expectations even up. And that's important to do as well.
The other piece is that as a whole, the management needs to cover all the strengths, right? All of the different areas. And in Ted Lasso, he had his diamond dogs, which were his his group of folks that supported him, his challenge network. And so that is important to think about. If you've done the work to understand your personal operating system and recognize where your weaknesses are, then you should get that. You should look for that in an advisor, a mentor, a challenge, somebody that supports you as your diamond dog, as your challenge network, to complement where you need. Nick and I lead very differently, and that makes for a greater power because he fills the pieces where I have weaknesses, and that's really important.
Absolutely. You don't want everybody to be identical because you need people who will pick up the pieces that maybe another person lacks. And that's how you build a successful team. How does this all lead to your personal pitch, to building that personal pitch?
So there are a lot of elements that we recommend collecting along the way. Some quotes that speak to you, your strengths, your weaknesses, your motivators, demotivators, to really help you set a vision for what you're aiming for and some strategies for getting there. Nick, do you want to add to that?
No, I think, we talk a lot about, and our next project is all about this, but we talk a lot about, we're entrepreneurs and we had to pitch our businesses to investors. And we did that through our stories, our experiences. We talk a lot about the fact that you need to tell stories and not facts. And your stories are based off of your experiences and what drives you and what your values are. So Marnie talked about it, this personal operating system, who you are, this self-reflection that you talked about, Eric, and how important it is. That should all come across in your personal pitch. And as you present yourself to others, people are interested in your story. So you need to have confidence in your story. You need to do the work. We talk about that all the time. Do the work. And if you think about your personal pitch, we have this notion of a personal pitch deck, which is all the different elements of the things we talk about in the book, from your personal operating system to your strategy, your goals, your legacy. Those should all come across, and you should be as comfortable communicating that out as any business would be in terms of communicating their value out to investors.
Thank you so much. Well, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to finish off the show with legacy, impact, and what's next. This is Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any of the information during the last segments or just want to listen again, go to getrootedradio.com. Don't forget to subscribe, sign up for tips and special events and pricing from upcoming coaching sessions, book releases, and all the fun that we have here at getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guests, Nick and Marnie from the Lead It Like Lasso team. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, we're so excited to be here. It's been a great conversation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So tell folks how they can connect with you to learn more about what you have to offer, all your workshops, all your podcasts, your newsletter, as well as how they can get the Lead It Like Lasso book.
Sure. It's a long list, but it's easy because we have the Lead It Like Lasso handle everywhere. So we do have a Ted Lasso rewatch podcast on YouTube and all the usual podcast places. And then all the social media. Our book is available on Amazon, and we are easy to find on LinkedIn. We also have Lead It Like Lasso there, and we have relatively unique names, which is helpful for sure. What did I leave out, Nick? We've got a new project we'll talk about. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that now?
Well, no. You forgot our satirical sidekick newsletter, Work in Progress AI, which is, I think, an enjoyable read with a lot of value coming out in a very satirical sense in terms of anybody that's looking for some real world value in terms of career advice.
Awesome. So now during the last few segments, we discussed the whole journey, the whole evolution of Lead It Like Lasso, leadership foundations, leading yourself first, and then building that personal pitch. And during this last segment, I really want to get into the legacy, the impact, and what's next. So just tell me, what are you hoping to leave as a legacy and impact, and what is next?
So I'll talk about the book piece and then let Nick talk about the project. So in the book, we talk about the importance of developing a legacy and understanding what it is, because many people just sort of go about their day to day doing the next thing that's in front of them, as opposed to having a really big plan that gives you some guide rails along the way about how, if you knew where you were aiming and you understand your core values, you might use them as bumper pads to figure out how to head in the direction that you're going. So in the back of the book, we talked about Nate, the character from Ted Lasso's retirement letter. And if he had written that retirement letter, would he have done all those shenanigans in season 2 and 3? And we questioned that. And then we wrote our own retirement letter where we talked about how we had started our previous company and Lead It Like Lasso as the start of our passion project. And so that is the legacy that we're aiming for. And I'm going to let Nick tell you about that passion project.
Yeah, we're super excited because it's about to come to fruition. So our passion project is really, it's rooted in conversations that we had at the kitchen table with and even beyond the kitchen table, but with young people. We want to help as many young people and people who are just in general stuck, to find ways to become the best versions of themselves. And as we talked about at the very beginning, earlier, we believe that the key to success, especially more so in 2025 than even years past, is the development of those character type skills. So we have a couple of things that are coming out relatively soon. On August 15th, we have a new book coming out called The Business of You. And what that book is, it's really a story. Unlike our previous book, which was relatable to a television show, this is more the story in a fable type format where we follow a character named Sydney, who is seemingly doing all the right things, is a university student, but is just getting lost in the crowd, doesn't know how to stand out, or is struggling to stand out and differentiate herself. And like many good fables, there's this mystical, magical type mentor who pops in, Larry, who is the guide, to help her really uncover, the values and the secret to standing out. And this guy, Larry, introduces Sydney to an app called Blue, which, in a not too unsurprising turn of events, starts to ask her questions and inform her that, treating personal development and leadership is not too dissimilar to what most every successful company does. It understands its core values. It understands how to brand itself. It surrounds itself with a board of advisors. It talks about how to pitch yourself. And she uses this app to do that. And I'll let Marnie take it from there in terms of what the app actually is.
Yeah. And a shocking turn of events, we're actually building that app. So late this year, we will have an app, which we're really excited about because, as you mentioned, that reflection piece is hard. People don't often force themselves to do that work. And so we're going to gamify that a bit to make it a little bit easier, and have some fun with getting to know yourself. And this will lead to folks being able to stand out in these regards. If you're a student and have to write a college essay, or you have an interview, or you're going for an internship, you need to know how to tell your story. And so the app is going to help folks learn how to ask better questions of themselves and others so you can grow a network, right? Build those relationships, which we talked about at the beginning of the show. How to tell your story, which is really what makes you stand out in interviews, et cetera, and then lead your life so that you can become that best version. So we're really excited about this project, as you can imagine.
I mean, no, I can feel you guys' excitement, and really it's not only, like you said, having fun doing it, because if you always say, oh, I have to do laundry, I have to mow the lawn.
Yeah, those are on that list.
Right? No, I get to do that, like changing that narrative. And so when we do that hard work of self-reflection, and being self-aware, if we make it fun, it's a little bit easier. And it sounds like that's exactly what you're starting from the point where that's when we need to do it. We need to get that done at the younger age, because as we get older, we get more stubborn and it gets just harder. But I know there's a lot of people who aren't maybe the young who could also use this. And so
100%.
I know you might be focusing on that, but I can name a few people, which I won't name their names, that could really use this as well.
So we talk to a lot of folks who have been out of a job and were aiming to find a better fit for themselves, or aiming to interview, that we've given advanced reader copies of the book to. And the feedback from them has been really uplifting in how it has helped them reframe the way they're thinking about telling their story. So that has been really exciting. And in the world of having fun, I have to say that as we were talking about building one section of the app, and we were like, this is so silly, but we were actually cracking ourselves up in the work of it. Now I'm easily entertained, but it has been a fun project.
Well, and I think this is why, folks, you need to get out there at Lead It Like Lasso. Get on their website, get on their mailing list, get on everything so that you can be reminded. I mean, don't forget, it's August 15th. That is an incredible date. I'm maybe saying that because it's my birthday, but that is.
Well, you're celebrating Erica's birthday by launching our book that day.
I know. I mean, I'm so honored. Thank you. But I think that's, get out there so that you are reminded, because I think this is going to be an incredible project that you guys are doing. And I wish you all the best of luck.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So very kind.
Okay, one more time for listeners. How can they outreach to you? How can they get on that list and get reminded and get your newsletter?
So leaditlikelasso.com is an easy way to find us on all the social medias at Lead It Like Lasso. And we have the little snarky sidekick newsletter, workinprogress.ai, which is a fun one to join as well.
Thank you both so much for being on the show today. And I want to thank you all for tuning in to Get Rooted Radio. If you missed any of the information during today's episode or just want to listen again, go to getrootedradio.com for the podcast. And don't forget to tune in the first and third Monday of each month at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific right here on Transformation Talk Radio. And two more messages for you. I'm calling all you powerful women to be a co-author in the Like a Woman trilogy, a bold collaboration celebrating real stories of resilience, leadership, and unapologetic power. Remember, your story deserves to be heard, and in these books, I'm looking for fierce women who are ready to rise, speak up, lead, live, and love out loud. It's not just books, it's a movement, a sisterhood, and a legacy. Reach out to me and apply online at getrootedradio.com. One last personal message. If you are hurting or need help, please know the world needs you in it, and it is a better place with you in it. Don't let the hard days win. Reach out for assistance. Call or text or chat the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, or text HOME, HOME, to 741-741 to reach a trained crisis counselor through Crisis Text Line. Both are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and are free. Thank you for tuning in. Have an amazing day. Know that you are loved, and I'm looking forward to the next time on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Visit getrootedradio.com if you've missed any part of this hit show, and tune in on transformationtalkradio.com to live fearlessly in your more and powerfully rooted in your unlimited yes. For more information and to work with Erica directly, visit getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com, and get ready to live it up, love it up, and let it go.